TLV1 Studios in Tel Aviv, Israel. It's Louis Live. Now your host, me, Ari Louis. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. It's that time of day, that time of week. Louis Live here on TLV1.FM. We have a jam-packed show. We'll talk with Simon Pack from Israel Curling, Mark Gordon about anti-Semitism in football, Suzanne Greene about her bronze medal in the badminton for the Maccabi, Adrian Banks, and much, much more. But first, we're going to get things kicked off with the head coach of the Judean Rebels, Coach Eastman. Coach Eastman, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
Thank you very much. Erev Tov.
Erev Tov, let's get right into it. Your team last year was 5-5 in the regular season, a 5 seed, and then they go on this improbable Cinderella-like run and go to the title game. Tell us, what was the difference of your team in the postseason as opposed to the regular season?
Well, the biggest difference was I shifted number 20, which was Donnie Eastman, over into quarterback. It had kind of been my plan all along because he does what's called a spread offense, uses multiple receivers, and has a pretty good ability to run. My goal was to bring it in at the end of the season when we made it into the playoffs because that totally changed the kind of offense we've been playing all year.
It certainly kept the teams by surprise. And let's talk about that semifinal game. You guys upset the Tel Aviv Pioneers, who only had one loss coming into that game. Very hot day. And, of course, you had to be on the road in Tel Aviv. A very close game as well. Tell us about your memories of that game.
Well, I tell you, for me right now, even as good as I was proud of the way the guys played against the Sabre. I think that was my team's finest moment. In the heat, literally my offensive line, when I went out to the huddle to talk about, how they had to protect the quarterback, my center goes, "We've got this, coach. We're going to take care of them." And their blocking and everything they did, even though it was a close game, the team never felt like they were going to lose. They kept going. We had wonderful help from ladies that came with us to bring water on the fields. I figured out after the game we drank over 250 liters of water.
Wow.
It was a game that by all standards should not have been played. Baruch Hashem, nobody got too sick from the game. But I tell you, that was the quietest victory bus I ever rode on because everybody was so beat they just went to sleep.
It was a very serious situation because that particular day in the Tel Aviv Marathon, a runner actually died from the heat. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're happy you guys won. Nobody was hurt. But should the league take precautions to make sure teams don't play in heat, such as the heat that was played in the playoff game?
I think change has already occurred in the league in that we have a new commissioner, and for sure he was working with us last year before he was the commissioner, and he agreed with me. I had tried to get the game changed to a Thursday night when I saw the prediction for the heat, but was told it just couldn't work out, and so we went ahead and played against, for sure, my wishes. But as it turned out, Baruch Hashem, everybody came out okay. But I think in the future they won't ever do that again.
And you mentioned Mitzal Freeman. He's the commissioner now. He used to be the head coach with the Rebels. He won a title with the Rebels. You're filling in for his position. Talk about those shoes you have to fill of a guy who won a championship with the team you're coaching now. I
tell you what, it was difficult at best because, first off, Betzalel was a remarkable man and a remarkable organizer, and loves football to the highest degree. And Baruch Hashem, I have good players, and it's not too bad. I've been having fun. We're different in our style, for sure. He focuses more on, he's good at being a receiver and has been a receiver in his own time. And so they're one type offense versus the type offense I brought in. It was good. We got into the championship. We just finished. As Vince Lombardi said, the game ended before we got our chance to win.
I like that. Vince Lombardi always gives out those great quotes. Yeah. Now, you got it in the title game, as you mentioned. You got to play in the title game. You guys lost. Talk about the taste of being in that title game and how that's going to fuel you guys into this season.
Well, right now, for sure, you'll hear it sometimes. Anybody who comes to the game, you're going to hear one of the chants we give is finish it. We all felt like, we went into the third quarter, and the team did exactly what I asked them to do at the start of the third quarter. I said, keep the ball on the ground, keep moving it, and eat as much clock as they did. And we went ahead with 5 minutes left to go in the third quarter.
That's right.
And that scared the Sabres because up to then they really had no challenge. And then my defense made some errors that just unfortunate, and we had one punt that was unfortunate. It was returned for a touchdown. But I think the guys went in with a good attitude because a lot of them were veterans. About two-thirds of the team were veterans from the previous championship game, and they felt good. Everybody felt good. We felt positive. The energy was positive. We just couldn't quite finish it.
Coach, I broadcasted that game for Israel Sports Network, and I have to tell you, when you guys were up in the third quarter, a few minutes left, Baria gave me a wink. Like he knew that was going to happen. So you guys weren't so surprised that you had a lead even late into the third quarter.
No. In fact, I had no doubt in my guys. Across the board, the defense did a remarkable job as we went into the third quarter to keep the Sabres at their low point scoring. And, both teams right at the end of the second quarter, as you remember, had a shot at scoring all of a sudden, but both quarterbacks stepped over the line on the throw.
Right.
And the touchdowns were called back. So it was kind of a break even there. But no, I had no doubt. The unfortunate thing was one punt situation, and that punt gave them more than a touchdown lead, and then they could just tee off and come in the backfield and take after the quarterback. And even if we scored, we wouldn't have been ahead. So it was a good game.
We're speaking with Coach Eastman, head coach of the Judean Rebels on Louis Live and TLV1. Now, Coach, you mentioned Donnie Eastman. That's an interesting situation for you personally because not only is he your son and the star of the team, he's the MVP of the league at 18 years old. So a lot of times when they say, hey, coach shows favoritism to a son of his, you're kind of in that situation where you're trying not to do that. But, hey, it's Donnie Eastman. You got to give him the ball. You got to let him do what he can do, right?
I have to say, yes, I do. What happens was Baruch and the teams there, we had one practice where I heard him talking too much about, well, we have Donnie, he'll do this, he'll do that. And Badaska made a play. I did a play where I said nobody blocked for Donnie on the offense, and they didn't on the offense. And the defense, of course, 8 guys tackled him in the backfield. I said Donnie can't do anything by himself on this field. Every player is needed. He just has this ability that he's had since he started playing football as a young boy. And he sees the field quickly. So, what's difficult for me is when he takes a lot of hits, which he does in a game, because he plays defense too. He doesn't want to come off the field when the game is on the line. And it's tough as his father to keep putting him back on the field when I think he should be pulled off for a while.
And he took a lot of tough hits in that title game. I mean, hit after hit, showed a lot of toughness, was able to get up after those hits. And we'll leave you this last question. People are asking if Donnie's going to play this year because he is in the military. What is Donnie's status football-wise at this point?
I will tell you right now, he plays also on the international flag team for Israel, so he got a sports deferment. And he's working in a base in Jerusalem, and he gets off every night to do sports. And so right now, God willing, with no injuries, Donnie will be playing again on the Judean Rebels this year also.
All right, you guys heard that here on Louis Live and TLV1. Coach, we got to go. Great luck to your team this season, and we will be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight.
All right, that was Coach Eastman. We're going to go take a musical break afterwards. It's Orff Becker, the father of tackle football in Israel.
She won't be surprised that she won't be shocked when she's pressed the star after she's pressed so long. And there's hers and chapters sat in her inbox, and all that it says is that you drank a lot. And you should bear that in mind tonight, bear that in mind, yeah, you should bear that in mind tonight, bear that in mind.
Back here on Louis Live on TLV1. You're listening to Ari Louis. If you want to contact me personally, you can do so at arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. And on the line right now, the father of tackle football here in Israel, Orff Becker. Orff, welcome to Louis Live on TLV1.
Hi, Ari. It's great to be on your show.
Absolutely, and you've done a lot in the history of football in Israel, but let's talk about something more recently. You were in a movie with me that was filmed at Kraft Stadium. That was a lot of fun. Tell us about that experience.
First of all, you're telling the people a lot of secrets. I don't think the people know that a movie is going to be going out. It doesn't have a name yet, and it's just in the making right now. But the big secret is that you and I have participated in filming and shooting a film about the Judean rebels, the Israeli football team from Judea and Samaria. It's a film that is doing it's telling the story about their second season in the league, in which they actually went and won the championship against all odds. It's a wonderful story, and that's what the movie is going to be telling, and we are part of it. I was doing both commentary for TV in some of the games, and I was doing also officiating on the field in some of their games all that season. You were doing play-by-play with Andy Gershman back then.
That's right.
And it's going to be a very, very nice story. It's a huge sportsman story, and a very, very exciting one.
Well, we're here about revealing secrets on Louis Live. Get all the inside stuff with me, yours truly. Now, you've done, as you mentioned, broadcasted for TV. How was it different to go from broadcasting for TV to being in a movie? Tell us about the differences.
Well, there are kind of similarities because they're both things you're doing for the people who are watching you, and you know that people are listening to you, that people are going to hear that or see that later on. And you're doing it for them, and you want people to hear and see the best that you can give them. And this is very similar in those terms. There are some differences between doing a movie and doing TV. Of course, when you're doing TV, you're trying to give the audience your commentary about the game. For myself, okay, I do commentary for TV when I do it. And you're trying to give the audience the best you can to fill the air, to fill the time with smart explanations of the game, of plays, of the strategies, the different things that they can think of doing ahead of time, and analyze what they've done in the recent play that they've just played, and that really gives the spectator a lot of insight of what he's seeing, and he understands the game probably better, and it's more pleasant. I know that from watching football. I watch football a lot. And there are some commentators which I really like hearing because they give you really a smart vision of the game that you're watching, and it really gives a lot of added value. Doing a movie, it's a little different. It's acting. Okay, you act as if you're doing
right
stuff, but it was real fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it. What we did there, just for the audience to know that some of the things we were doing was covering for games that were not filmed for TV as if they are right now filmed for TV. So we had to act as if we were broadcasting a game. And it was real much fun because I really did it as if I'm broadcasting a game. It was like I was yelling, I was screaming when they scored touchdowns and everything. It's very much fun.
Orff, did you like the part where I made a prediction about a game where I already knew the outcome? Did you like that part?
Come on, you're telling the whole secret to everybody.
Well, I won't say what game it was. But
well, you're spoiling their enjoyment when they see the movie.
I just thought it was funny that you called me a prophet. I just got a kick out of it. I told Andy
yeah,
that
right.
story.
I said, well, if anybody doesn't know, then on one of the scenes, we did as if Ari is predicting the score of the game, and it's the real true score of it later on. And then I said on the filming, I said to the director, like, you're making a profit out of Ari.
Right.
Okay. That was just out of humor,
Yeah, but it was, I've never been able to predict a game where I already knew the outcome. That was a lot of fun. I wish all games could be like that.
Of course.
That would be good stuff.
We all would like to. especially as commentators, you want to make an impression as if you really understand and you can predict. But we all, all of our predictions as commentators are only the logical thing that you think on the moment, and you can be wrong like anybody else.
Absolutely, because in real life, we're not actually prophets, and I can't stand when people get upset if I pick against their team because it's nothing personal. I'm just trying to decipher the facts, go based on what I've seen, you go by patterns, and that's it. You make a prediction, and you make that in anything in life pretty much.
Well, yeah, the thing is that, we expect the commentators to make a prediction which is at least logical, which they can justify because they have the facts, they bring you the facts on the field, who is tougher on the defensive line, for example, and who is tougher on the secondary, and et cetera, and why they think this is more dominant in this game than this other feature or whatever, and then they can come up with a score, which is, in fact, only their gut's feeling in the end.
We're speaking with the father of tackle football in Israel, Orff Becker. Now, it's amazing that we've had at least 3 films about the IFL. There could be some more out there. And this all started with you, that you started tackle football in Israel. Tell us very quickly the story of how tackle football began in Israel.
Well, let's go back to 1999. I just finished my master's degree in the Technion and moved to the center of Israel. I wanted to play tackle football. I loved that game for years. And I just, I was sitting in front of my computer thinking of what games are going to be on Middle East television on that weekend. I went to their internet site. I saw there a Contact Us button. I pushed it. I sent an email saying, if you'd be nice and please on your broadcasts of American football, please post that if anybody wants to play American football in Israel, please call my number. I gave them my number. That's it. That's what I did. I really didn't believe that this would work in any way. But then I went away. I came back. My answering machine was full of people that want to play American football. I did not understand what happened really at the beginning. I didn't even know that Middle East television put an advertisement on in every timeout they were broadcasting. They even put a music to it and everything and footage from NFL football games. If you want to play American football, please call. And my number was on like every timeout. So people would just call and I started making listings. And then we set up a first meeting in Tel Aviv, in the Sportec in Tel Aviv. And we started playing football every Friday. Everybody just brings a white shirt, a black shirt, and a ball if he has. And I brought some just basic equipment to run games, like how to sign teams. Like I brought things for your arm. This is the black team, this is the white team, and I brought things to sign to mark the sidelines and everything, and balls and everything. We started playing, and that went on for years at the beginning, till in 2004-ish, we understood that there's enough people in Israel that play American football, because in Haifa also there were a few people with Ben Friedman starting to play. And we understood that we have enough people to make a basic league of 3 teams. The first league consisted of the Tel Aviv Pioneers, the Tel Aviv Sabres, and the Haifa Underdogs. First season in 2005-2006 was played without helmets and shoulder pads, full tackle. Okay, I'm waiting for people to say crazy guys. Yes, we were. And we made a whole season. I donated what was called back then the Orff Becker Trophy, the league trophy for the champions. Then we had 9 games in the whole season. There were 3 teams. Each one played each other 3 times. Haifa Underdogs and Tel Aviv Pioneers reached the first prehistoric, I call it, Israel Bowl. And we played it in the Baptist village near Petah Tikva under the presence of Israeli Sports Authority director then, Dr. Shuki Dekel, who passed the trophy to the winners, the Haifa Underdogs. Ben Friedman was the first captain to lift the trophy in the world. They won 37-14. That was the first season. And then the second season was already played with gear and everything under supervision and sponsorship of Robert Kraft, who joined the whole thing together with the AFI. That's a whole story later on, the merging of the both organizations that started football in different places in Israel. It's a whole big story. I can talk about it like for 2 more hours if anybody wishes,
We actually have to run, but we appreciate the quick version of how the IFL got started. Ofri, thank you so much. Good luck to the Michigan Wolverines, and we will be in touch.
Yes, of course. We're 4-0 right now.
Yes, that's good stuff. Better than my fine Irish.
We survived 2 scares against cupcake teams,
Yeah, well, they like to make your heart run a little bit. All right, Ofri, thanks so much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Ari. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll be back with Adrian Banks after this.
בבניין ממול יש אכן של דעתי הוא לא ישן לפי מה שראיתי צל השכן על בטוח שהוא לא ישן כל היום כל הלילה כל היום כל הלילה הוא לא ישן אז שאלתי את השכן תגיד לי למה אתה לא ישן הוא אמר לי אני רק השכן של השכן של השכן
Back here on Lewis Live on TLV1. By the way, you can find us on Twitter at TLV1.fm and email me personally at arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com. My next guest was the Israel Super League scoring champion in 2012. He's back in Israel after a year in Italy. Please give a warm Lewis Live welcome to Adrian Banks. Adrian, how you doing out there?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Doing great. So I guess you missed our manners, our warm culture. You had to just come back to Israel because of that?
Yeah, that was one of those things, It's one of those countries that kind of sucks you in, and
sure,
and they treat you very well, and the hospitality is great, and
I'm sure
it's hard to find in Europe.
Yeah, well, you fly into Ben Gurion, and then you see someone cut in front of you in line. You're like, it's good to be back home, back in Israel, right?
Yeah, that's one of the other main things. Driving is
now
not one of those things you want to do.
Yeah, I have friends that tell me all the time that people come off and they just try to deal with it. But let's talk about your time in Italy because you won the regular season with your team, led into the playoffs. What was that experience like? You come for playing in Israel, and you were with Spark Titania, then you go to Italy. Tell us the change and the contrast of the fans and the playing style.
Well, first of all, the fans, just that right there. It was on a whole other level that I haven't experienced in college days and playing in America with the support that the fans in the city of Areza gave us as the players, and just me personally, the fan base I had and that I gained over this past season is the best ever in my career. It's like one of the highlights of my career is the way they treated me and the way the fans was. And talking about basketball and on the court, it was very different for me because, like you said, in 2012 I was the leading scorer. I was used to getting my shot attempts up and doing things right. But I think Israel was a good place for me to come, and Italy was a good place for me to go to and show that I'm versatile and I can play in any system in Europe and any style. And I learned so much. And one of the main things I got out of playing in Italy and playing with Bereza and the coach I had, Bertucci, was defense. And that was something that was carried on from I learned in summer league with the Memphis Grizzlies with the NBA, and that carried on. And me doing that fit very well for me going to Italy and what I had to expect from me. And I just learned so much, man, as a player and as myself, and becoming a great teammate. That was the biggest thing. And I just did well, and we were able to win. And I can tell you what, the things I learned in Italy, I sure am ready to try to use those things in Israel.
Now you're with Gilboa Galil, and they won the title a few years ago. They beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, and last year Maccabi Haifa upset Maccabi Tel Aviv. So is there a feeling around the league, Adrian, that Maccabi Tel Aviv is not as invincible as people might think they are?
Well, the championship game is one game, and as we all know in the game of basketball, if you give 5 guys, a chance to win in 40 minutes, it can be done at any level with any kind of team of any caliber if you have the right game plan. And but I still Maccabi is still the leaders of the Israeli league. 1 year is nothing else. The things they do during the season, the way they dominate, and the way they dominate in the European leagues also. you can't just, just count them out and just think of it that easily now. Now, if they lose 2 in a row, then I would start to think like that. But right now, I still know, and I played in this league 2 years. I know what Maccabi can do and what they're capable of every year, not just every 2 or 3 years, but every year. So they're still up there with me.
We're speaking with Adrian Banks here on Louis Live on TLV1. Now, Adrian, you didn't start out at a college, university. You started, you're a JUCO player, junior college, then you go on to Arkansas State. Do you carry kind of a chip on your shoulder that you weren't brought into university right away? You kind of had to earn your stripes in the junior college level?
Yeah, of course I do, and especially coming from Memphis, Tennessee, where I'm from, to be able to, I guess we would say, go do things the long way. I had to be patient with what I had to do. And, I had big dreams of coming out of high school playing football. So that was kind of one of the reasons I was backed off upon in the basketball world. But things changed at the last minute, and I had to go the long route. And the route I chose actually was, I went through a lot, but everything I learned in every step I took each 2 years and now in my professional career, it's helped me so much.
Wow, that's a great story, because a lot of guys would be kind of a bad attitude about it. I can't believe I had to go to junior college and forget this, but you stuck with it, and you eventually went to Arkansas State, and there you were one of 7 players in their entire history to score 1,000 points. So tell us what that meant to you.
Oh, that was great, because I think in junior college also, I was like one of the 6th player in history to score 1,000 points. So, my whole career has been about being able to score and being a threat, and to be able to continue that success on such a high level in a Division I team in the United States, and being able to come home and play in front of University of Memphis, my home crowd, and to be, on the highest level from where that was known to me at that time was a great feeling. And the city of Jonesboro, I still have friends there now. Those relationships I've built in those 2 years, it would take a regular person 4 years, I think, to build the relationships I had to build in 2 years.
Wow.
So at each place, so I gained so much from that.
Again, we're speaking with Adrian Banks here on Louis Live. Adrian, last question for you. Again, 2012, you led Israel in scoring. What really clicked for you? You talk about the shot attempts and other things, but tell us more specifically what worked so well for you that you led the Israel League in scoring, the entire league.
Well, one was the coach Danny Franco. The positions he put me in. He knew where I like to be on the court. Also, I played with Brian Osbury, who is a 3-4. He can go inside, go outside. Him taking a lot of pressure off me gave me that ability to score the way I did and get in transition. And we had a great group of Israeli guys with Yahoo and Lipschitz, those two. You don't find guys like that on every team. They're great teammates. They're going to do the dirty work for you and make it a lot easier for guys like me. So they had a big part in that. They did the things that I don't like to do, the playing the hard defense, during, those times where we need a guy to give up a couple fouls, There were times, they wanted to sacrifice that for me to play offense, and those guys sacrificed everything they had to put me in a position to score the ball, and I was able to become the leading scorer that season, and I want to thank those guys.
All right, great stuff, and very sportsmanlike of you to thank your teammates there. Adrian, we got to run. Thank you so much for your time. We know you're very busy. This is a very busy time of the year, as always, but thank you for being on Louis Live and TLV1.
Thank you for having me, and you have a nice one.
Thank you. Be well. That was Adrian Banks. We're going to take a musical interlude to be back with Suzanne Greene after this.
Over my eyes, burn the candle.
Back here on TLV1, this is Louis Live. Had a great show so far. We got great guests coming up, so don't go anywhere. We're right now going to switch gears and talk some badminton with Suzanne Greene. Suzanne, how you doing out there?
Great. Hi. How are you?
Doing wonderful, and you had a great summer. You participated in the Maccabi here in Israel, and you were able to win a bronze medal with Marissa Levy. Tell us about that experience. It's always fun to win and come to Israel, and you did both at the same time, so tell us about that.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, they never expected to win. Obviously, you go out there to compete and have a great time. Being with the U.S. team was one of just the most incredible experiences. And I actually met Marissa at the Maccabi, so we had never been doubles partners before. So it was really amazing to be able to go out there and, win bronze for the U.S. with somebody that you've just become acquainted with.
Yeah, how do you go about doing that? I mean, I imagine tennis players, they have to play together for a while. Any other double sports, they have to play together, know each other's strengths. How do you just meet a stranger, play together, and win the bronze?
I think that it comes from a lot of experience, being able to, mesh with somebody immediately because we've both played for so long. We just had a really good repartee on the court, which was just from, playing so much in our lives. So that was really amazing.
And let's talk about that experience. You played high school, obviously, at a varsity level, and your school in high school had a very interesting record, a Guinness Book World Record. Tell us about that.
I went to a school on Long Island in New York. It's called Miller Place High School. They had one of the longest winning streaks of any sports franchise. It was 504 matches without a loss, which lasted for 32 years. So I was very lucky to be a part of that legacy.
All right, and tell us, you're at this high school where they have such a badminton tradition, and it really helps you for success. What are some of the things that school does differently that other schools may not do to not be as successful as Miller was?
I think that one of the biggest things that Miller Place did was start kids really young. So their training program started around middle school age and extended into high school. I know in the past, they had actually had an Olympic training program, and one of my coaches had actually participated in the '92 Olympics. So,
wow.
In more recent times, unfortunately, due to budget cuts and restraints, the school cut back, which I am so upset about.
Right.
But I think that it's just starting out really young and getting into the sport as a kid.
Well, Suzanne, at least they made those budget cuts after you left the school, right? So at least you have that.
Yeah, right. Thank God.
We're speaking with Suzanne Greene, who got a bronze medal in the Maccabi in badminton. Now, in college, you play at a club level, but you train with very achieving badminton players, famous players. Tell us about that experience.
I'm lucky enough that I got to participate in a training camp with the United States men's doubles badminton team of Tony Gunawan and Howard Bach. They were absolutely amazing. I did a 3-day camp with them, and also the German team. So that was just amazing. Playing on an Olympic level is a dream of mine, and I think that getting to play with such knowledgeable athletes that, badminton is their career, not only their passion, is just unreal and was literally one of the best experiences of my life.
Now, let's talk about the Olympics, because badminton, there's not a lot of places you can really go to, is my understanding, outside the Olympics. So are you eyeing 2016, 2020? Tell us about your Olympic hopes.
I think that in order to be in the Olympics, you really need to make a lot of personal sacrifices, which, although I would love to be in the Olympics, isn't necessarily something that I think I'm ready to do at this time. Also, I think that a lot of the athletes that come out and play for the Olympics tend to be of an Asian background from Malaysia, Taiwan, China. Those countries really have very serious badminton programs that the U.S. just can't compete with. So I think for me, I'm going to remain at the more amateur level, but definitely would love to continue to play with advanced players on a higher level.
So it sounds like, and a lot of athletes, I find this in Israel and Maccabi, you're playing purely for the love of the game, not to get an endorsement in the Olympics or something else, but because you love the game so much, that's why you choose to play it.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Fun fact, badminton is the fastest growing sport in the world, and it's the second largest after soccer. So people underestimate just the width and breadth of the sport because it isn't something that's generally played in the West. So, I think that most people, especially people from the West, really just do play for the love of the sport.
Now, since you mentioned that you don't want to put the personal sacrifices to make the Olympics, after college, is there a way you could coach the sport or do something else outside of Olympics to still be involved with it?
Good question. I think that for me, I would love to coach at some point in my life. I have a few friends that I actually met playing in the Maccabiah that have academies of their own. So maybe at some point I could come on as a coach there. But also I think just being able to play at clubs, like there's a few very large clubs in the nation, like Manhattan Beach Badminton Club, which is in California, and also College Point Badminton Club in Queens. Clubs like those will always be a part of my life. You know, they have tremendous amounts of members. There's always people there. You can always train. You can always be trained. So I think that for me, it's just going to become a regular part of more of an exercise routine, less of a competitive thing.
All right, and let's end going back to the bronze. You won the bronze of the Maccabiah. What were some of the teams you had to beat to get there, and any close encounters to defeat that you had to get through and win to win the bronze? Tell us about that.
I think the competition was very tough. The team that won gold actually was also the U.S. team, which was the women that we trained with. So that was very fun. When we played our gold medal match, we were still in the bronze standing, but we were playing our teammates. So that was just like really nerve-wracking and also very fun. And the team that won the silver was the Israeli team.
Okay,
which had they had an incredibly strong presence, especially in badminton, which was just amazing to see. I never really expected that when I came to Israel, that there would be so many great badminton players there. And Marissa and I were just so thrilled to be in third place. I mean, it was honestly the biggest honor to be able to compete with both our own team and against the Israeli team in order to secure that win.
All right, Suzanne, great stuff. We appreciate your time here on Louis Live on TLV1. And good luck with your badminton career, even if it's not at Olympic level. It's always fun to play at sport. So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks so much.
All right, that was Suzanne Greene. Stay tuned, folks. Don't go anywhere. After this musical interlude will be Simon Pack, who's the Secretary General of the Israel Curling Federation. This is Louis Live on TLV1.
תשובה בואי לאיבוד נחפש לחוד אופק לא נודע בואי נשאר פתוחים לאהבה בואי לא נשב ימים ונחשב למי יותר כואב ומי אשם במה בואי ונצא עד אל הקצה עד שנימצא בואי נשאר פתוחים לאהבה בואי נגלה זהר מתמלא שחר שעולה לא צריך סיבה בואי לביתי הביא אותי כבר בואי נשאר פתוחים לאהבה אחר כך ניפגש ואז שוב ניפגש פתוחים לאהבה בואי ניפגש אחר כך ניפגש ואז שוב ניפגש פתוחים לאהבה בואי נשתנה נשנה כיוון נחפש סבלה כשהיום עבר בואי וניקח את שנינו ונברח אלינו בואי נשאר פתוחים לאהבה בואי נקבל בלי להתרגל רק להתגלגל לא צריך דבר בואי נאחר אחרי שנוותר קצת בואי נשאר פתוחים לאהבה
Back here on Louis Live on TLV1.fm. You can follow us on Twitter at TLV1.fm. You can email me personally at arilouisshow@hotmail.com. That's ARILOUISSHOW at hotmail.com. We're going to switch gears from the badminton world into the curling world with the Secretary General of the Israel Curling Federation, Simon Pack. Simon, how you doing out there?
Hi, Ari. How are you?
Doing great. Now, we have a lot of questions for you here. First of all, you don't play curling that much. You started playing about a year ago, and then you're the Secretary General of the Federation here in Israel. How did that happen? Tell us about that, Simon.
I guess I climbed the ladder pretty fast.
That's a pretty good climate, yeah. I want to know how to do that.
I think I started with the Curling Federation probably around 3.5, 4 years ago. Got in touch with the president. The president is a guy named Alex Tripolsky. Alex represented Israel in the 1996 Olympics in Barcelona. 96 in Atlanta for shooting.
Wow.
Alex is an Israeli Olympian. He placed, I think he was 16th in that the 96 games. So I got in touch with Alex. There's another guy named Sharon Cohen. Anyhow, my connection with these guys, they train at a shooting range here in Beit HaLochem in Jerusalem. That's the facility for injured war veterans and injured Army veterans. And so I met those guys there at the shooting range, and they talked to me about curling, what they're doing, what they're trying to do with the Curling Federation, and trying to bring it back from the dead, so to speak.
Yeah, let's talk about that because they were expelled in 2008. This is the Curling Federation. You guys got them voted back in. Tell us about that how you guys got to do that.
Right, so that was one of the first things in talking to them. I started to do a little bit of background and find out what was the status. Really, the way the sports system works here is intuitively it seems a little backwards that you first...
Wait, Israel backwards, Simon? Israel does things backwards? Get out of here.
You first need to be accepted by the international governing body of your sport, and then you can get acceptance by the Israeli Olympic. All right,
yeah.
So obviously to get acceptance here in Israel, we had to first then go and get acceptance from the governing body of curling. That's the World Curling Federation, as you mentioned. So I started contacting, they're out of Scotland. Scotland obviously is the home of curling, and it's a sport of, I don't know, a little more than 500 years, dating back over 500 years. The home office for the World Curling Federation is in Scotland. And so I started contacting them, went through old papers that the guys from the Curling Federation here gave me, traced back kind of where things went awry and tried to get us back to that point. And there was an issue of they had given equipment. They gave Israel, in about 2001, they gave Israel 64 curling stones. Each curling stone is about 23 kilos. So it's about 50 pounds for a curling stone. And somewhere in the country, there were 64 of those floating around. Half were in Metula, another half in Iraq in Jerusalem, another half in Beit HaLochem, all over the place. So I think making sure that the World Curling Federation knew that we had these stones, we had all of the stones, they were in good working condition, that we were doing curling activity. We'll talk, I guess, a little bit about that shortly, that we were practicing, playing, things were happening. I think that was important for the World Curling Federation to know. Before the actual vote at the General Assembly, I took a trip to Riga, Latvia, for the Women's World Curling Championships. And at that tournament, I was able to meet with the board of directors for the World Curling Federation. I made a short presentation to them, and that was in March of this year. And they said, okay, Simon, come to, you guys are ready, your stuff's in order, come to the annual General Assembly in September, and we'll put up Israel for a vote.
We're speaking with Simon Pack, the Secretary General of the Israel Curling Federation. Simon, we have a few more minutes with you, so talk about that curling activity that you mentioned that was part of the reason why you guys were voted back into the World Curling Federation.
Right. As I mentioned initially, that a lot of it started from handicapped individuals here that were associated with Beit Lochem, and really, I think it's kind of a touching. It hits a spot. It hits home with a lot of people that's seeing wheelchair curling. It's a lot like shuffleboard in a sense that the stone is thrown by attaching it to a stick, a delivery device, and throwing it down the ice, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 meters. So I think that those guys, we had wheelchair curlers at Ira Kerach in Jerusalem when it was at Kikar Safra, and then again when it was over by the new train station in Jerusalem. It takes place they hold that, put it together for about 3 months. I think they had the ice. So we had practices there weekly basis in the evenings with both wheelchair curlers and able-bodied people. After people would get done with recreational ice skating, they would stick around and do some curling. Obviously, if you know any Canadians, curling and drinking goes hand in hand. So it's, it's a sport that's fun. It's a sport that is, it involves a lot of sportsmanship in general. That, the tradition in curling is the losers get drinks bought for them.
Oh,
the winners.
nice.
So it's a good traditional sport. It's got great history. It's competitive. It's got a lot of strategy. I think it suits Israel well. We just need to start really growing the game from the grassroots level, getting people involved. And one of the obvious obstacles is the ice. Where can we practice, and where can we do that here in Israel?
All right, Simon, great stuff. We got to run, but thank you for being on Louis Live on TLV1. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, folks, you want to stay tuned for the next interview because we're talking anti-Semitism in Europe. Believe it or not, it does happen. That's with Mark Gordon. That's after this. Back here on Louis Live on TLV1, we've talked badminton, we've talked curling, we talked basketball, we talked football, American style. Now we're going to talk football, soccer style, and anti-Semitism style with our good friend Mark Gordon. Mark, how you doing out there?
I'm good. Fortunately, I'm at a train station, so you'll have to excuse the beeps as I talk. But
oh, that's all right.
Fine.
That gives style. That's all good. And thank you for letting our audience know that. They probably would have not even thought about it, but now you mentioned it. Anyway, the Tottenham Spurs have had the nickname Yid Army for as long as I've been following football. So really tremendous stuff. And now there's controversy to the point the Prime Minister is getting involved. Tell us what is the latest. I'm being told the fans are now not going to be allowed to say Yid Army because it's classified as hate speech. Tell us the latest ruling on all of that.
Okay. Firstly, the club's called Tottenham Hotspur, and as long as you've been following football, it's probably since 7 o'clock.
3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, and every time you tell me, "Oh God, soccer, not again," when you talk to me,
Never.
But, yeah,
Never said that on Facebook to you, ever.
yeah. Well, I won't repeat what you do say, but there we go. Okay, Tottenham Hotspur have for years and years and years been known as Yid Army, partly because the club has historically had a large Jewish support, Jewish directors at the club. It's currently owned by a billionaire called Joe Louis, who lives out in the Bahamas. The chairman is called Daniel Levy. It has very Jewish roots,
right?
But probably no more than its North London rival Arsenal, which is for years had a director called David Dean. It's actually owned by the gentleman who owns the Denver Broncos.
Oh, okay.
Silent Stan, but I don't think he's of the faith.
Yeah, because he's silent. That's why you know he's not Jewish. Jews talk.
Absolutely. They've been called the Yid Army. I mean, from the days I looked at a couple of articles. There was a player back in the 1960s called Jimmy Greaves, who was probably one of the greatest strikers to play for England. Jimmy Greaves was always known as Yiddy Greaves to everybody else. His friends around the club and the fans for years and years and years have chanted Yiddo, Yid Army. It's never been used as a term of hate at Tottenham. It's like, I don't like to use this as probably the best example, but when you have two rappers and they're African American and they use the N-word to talk to each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's not used as a term of hate when used internally. And the Tottenham fans identify them as almost being Jewish.
Huh.
The problem comes when Tottenham go to local clubs like Chelsea and West Ham, and you'll hear songs along the lines of Tottenham are on their way to Auschwitz.
Right.
And the West Ham fans have a reputation for making gassing sounds. And that's where people have become very uncomfortable with it. About 2-3 years ago, I was on a radio show on another radio station, and we did an article about this because two Chelsea supporters had made a video called The Y Word, which was all about how wrong it was to say Yid or Yiddo. Both of them are famous comedians, David Baddiel and his brother Ivor Baddiel, probably less famous. So Ivor came on the show and we argued with him for 15 minutes and said, when it's used affectionately, there's no problem with it. As long as the people who use it accept it and as long as the people using it use it properly. But, these two guys have campaigned and campaigned and campaigned, and now the Football Association have said you cannot use the Y word.
So basically, the association is punishing a team because of what other fans say about that team? Is that basically what's happening?
Absolutely, which is where the Prime Minister of Great Britain has come into it. David Cameron has weighed into the argument, and he's gone really with the Tottenham fans and said, it's how it's used, it's traditional. If you go back to World War II in Netherlands, in Amsterdam, there's a team called Ajax. Ajax are, the most famous club from the Netherlands. And during World War II, when the Nazis invaded Holland and were clearing out the Jews, Ajax Football Club decided to call themselves the Jews. And, today you still see Israeli flags, Magen Davids everywhere. And it was done to sort of say, we're from Amsterdam. We identify with these people. We're the Jews. And if you want to come for us, come for us. But there's 50,000 of us.
Wow.
Forget. And, it was seen as in the same way that the King of Denmark used to wear a yellow star.
Right.
It was seen as a way of identity. And while the Tottenham thing is never directly linked with the Holocaust, I don't think it's a bad thing if people want to associate themselves with Jews in a positive way.
Yeah, we'll be happy
God
to
help
take
us,
it.
we need enough of this publicity. I mean,
Yeah.
It's ironic. This is the same football association that allowed the appointment of a manager called Paolo Di Canio at Sunderland. I mean, thankfully he was sacked after 13 games. But he has been giving fascist salutes to fans. He played for Lazio Football Club, which was always linked to Benito Mussolini. He said he's a proud fascist, but he's not an anti-Semite. And David Miliband, who's the brother of the opposition leader in England, I think he was the chairman or he was a director at Sunderland, and he resigned at the appointment. But the Football Association had no problem appointing a fascist.
So a fascist who's not an anti-Semite is like a vegetarian who eats meat. I mean, those two don't really go together. I don't understand that. All right.
Exactly.
Since Prime Minister Cameron has weighed in, Mark, is there a chance this ruling could be overruled and the fans could go back to saying a chant that they've done for 50, 60 years?
Well, I mean, if you listen to the club at the moment, when they're on television, they're singing it louder. I think all the Football Association have done have encouraged people to just sing it more. You know, there's a new player there, Christian Eriksen, and every time he gets the ball, they're singing Yido, Yidami. You know, I saw it on the television when I was watching it at the weekend. You know, people, you know, you tell someone they can't do it, they're like naughty children. They'll do it.
Yeah.
I think what the Football Association need to be targeting is people that are making racist and anti-Semitic gestures, noises, and that sort of hate speech, because that's what they're aiming to do. I mean, I went to Chelsea Football Club for a game against Manchester City, and there was a torrent of abuse. Chelsea is owned by a Jewish Russian called Roman Abramovich, and there was an absolute torrent of abuse, which we reported to the club, and the club did nothing about it. You know, the clubs really aren't that interested and that bothered. I think the Football Association know they have to act. They know they need to do something, but I think they've just done the wrong thing.
I was thinking in terms of where this compares with American sports, probably the Atlanta Braves. They have that, this Indian chant when a player, like, to help the team, to get them to help them score a hit or strike out, whatever. Outside of that, I mean, can you think, this is such a weird story. Can you think of anything else that compares to it?
Well, I mean, in America, you've got a number of examples. You've got the Notre Dame, or the Fighting Irish.
Ah, okay.
And again, is that a positive thing? Do Irish people fight? You know, it really depends. Right. It really depends how it's used. I mean, Cleveland are known as the Cleveland Indians.
Right.
The interesting one that I remember was in Washington. They were called the Washington Bullets.
Yeah, so they changed it to the Wizards. That's right.
Yeah, because bullets had a connotation with violence.
Right.
It also has a connotation with speed. You know, it's really how you take it. Is bullet a bad word? Not necessarily. Depends how you take it. You know, shooting is an Olympic sport.
That's true. Good point there.
So you know, it's all about the meaning and the intention for me. I have a friend who, I'll name him, he's called Raymond. He's a Tottenham fan, and he's also the chief executive of the Jewish Community Centre in London, which opened this weekend. Mazel tov, Raymond.
Yes,
Raymond's been going to Tottenham for years, and you know, he's been doing the rounds on British television recently because he's a Jewish Tottenham fan, and you know, he's never said the word Yid. I think he's always, you know, I've had arguments with Raymond about it. He's always been a little bit uncomfortable with it, but I think ultimately the essence of it is not, you know, does he want it to stop? I think possibly. But is he really that worried about it? No, he's more worried about the gas sounds and the hatred coming from the opposition fan.
That's more
what
serious.
Needs to be dealt with.
Absolutely. All right, Mark, we got to run. Thank you so much for your time on TLV1 here on Lewis Live. Enjoy the football and make your train if you're making it or whatever you're doing. Enjoy all that stuff, and I'll see you on Facebook.
See you soon.
All right. That was Mark Gordon talking about some football. Well, folks, we are at the end of the program. Again, if you want to email me personally with any comments, concerns, complaints, because it is a Jewish country, arilouisshow@hotmail.com, ARILOUISSHOW@hotmail.com, or you can follow the station on Twitter at TLV1.FM. I want to thank all the guests who came on. We start off the program with Coach Eastman, whose son Donnie won the MVP at 18 years old, and he told his team that doesn't mean Donnie could do everything by himself. We then spoke with Orff Becker, the father of tackle football here in Israel, who did a movie with yours truly, and that movie is secret right now. We won't tell you the title. We will tell you that soon. We then with Adrian Banks, the 2012 Israeli leading scorer in the basketball league, and he gave a great interview, and we're happy to have him back in Israel from his time in Italy. We then spoke with Suzanne Greene, who got a bronze medal in badminton with a partner she met here in Israel. So two strangers went together and got the bronze. We then spoke with Simon Pack, who does curling. He is a big part of curling in Israel, and as I said to Tammy, curling, badminton, whatever it is, I want everyone in Israel to think of me when they think of sports. And then we ended with Mark Gordon, who talked about anti-Semitism in Europe and that this really wasn't so anti-Semitic. Tottenham fans should be allowed to say Yid Army. Want to thank everyone for listening to the program. Stay tuned for a lot of great things, a lot of great stuff. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.